Okay, this is why they call it Instagram Live, hey? So, Olivia, we didn't have a good connection. Hopefully, she will jump back on here and we can continue our conversation about anxiety and overeating. So, let's get Livia back in here and hope this fixes our problem. Well, this is why they call it Instagram Live, eh?
Yep. Things can
I don't
happen.
know. I don't know. It was a connection. It just kept buffering. So hopefully that won't happen again. All right.
Yeah,
So
hopefully it's gonna work.
hopefully it's going to work. So we had begun talking about kind of
Anxiety.
the definition of anxiety and
Yes.
Continue from there what you were going to say. You want to repeat what you said right after I kind of told you the definition?
Yeah, so I think I talked about how the DSM-5 describes anxiety. That is kind of an anticipation of future fear and the different types of anxiety we can have. And I think what's important is to know the difference between anxiety that we can feel maybe day to day, which is absolutely normal, and we still can feel in control. Let's say before a big presentation or an exam in school, and the other part between the anxiety disorder, that where we might feel that the symptoms gets out of control, or we don't have control over our symptoms and the feelings.
Yeah.
And I think what I would say is that also, like, I would like to add that although anxiety can be a diagnosis, but if we look at it in relation to our autonomic nervous system, it is a symptom. It is a symptom that we are in an active self-protection mode. Anxiety can be a result of, or it can be as our body's reaction to something that it perceives as a threat.
Okay.
And why it can be important, because when people, let's say, get this diagnosis or get this label that they have anxiety disorder, people can start thinking about it as part of themselves. They start internalizing it. And anxiety is not us. Anxiety is not you if somebody's watching and they experience anxiety. This is a result of a certain state of our autonomic nervous system where we might spend a longer period of time than maybe we'd like to.
Yeah, so I see people use food in both circumstances. Maybe I am anxious over going live on Instagram. And so I eat to calm or to cope with fats. That would be the more acute anxiety, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Namely, the nervous system state when we are in, when we feel anxiety, when we experience it, is our sympathetic state. And that is a state where we have lots of energy in our bodies, and it's really, really uncomfortable. We don't want to feel all those comfortable symptoms that we might have in our bodies. And that's why we use different kind of coping tools, coping strategies to deal with that uncomfortable feeling. And I think, again, a coping strategy is good because maybe there was a time when that was the only thing we were able to use. But a coping strategy, what it does, it will only numb or mask our experience, and it won't change it. And that's why what I do, and hope you're going to share your experience as well with clients, is to start replacing the coping strategies with regulating tools, some kind of regulating resource that would heal and change the experience from the inside out. So again, the coping mechanism would just mask our experience, which we don't want to face, and a regulating tool would actually support us on a long term.
I want to bring out something else you said too, I think is worth noting, that anxiety is the symptom, but eating is the coping mechanism. So what I see with my clients is eating is a common coping mechanism because it usually starts in childhood. And does a child have access to alcohol? Usually not. Do they have access to illegal drugs? Usually not. Do they have access to a gym membership where they could go and they could be a gym addict, and that's fun? Usually not. The easiest thing, the most accessible thing that they have, there's always food downstairs in the kitchen. And it's acceptable. I mean, everybody eats, right? 3 times a day we eat. So if you see a 12-year-old drinking a beer, that would raise a red flag. You see a 12-year-old eating cupcakes, it doesn't even raise a red flag, right?
Yeah.
So I do a lot of work with my clients. Let's go back to childhood and see where these behaviors began. What is your relationship with food today, and how did it start back in childhood? So I think it's important to make that connection, because if you're using food to cope with anxiety, it probably did not start when you were 25, 30 years old. It probably started a very long time ago. And kind of like you mentioned, it could also be that was your coping mechanism for some sort of childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Correct?
Absolutely. I think we can learn and we can take on different coping mechanisms in different times of our life. Yeah. As you mentioned, food can be absolutely something that it was modeled for us. Maybe this was something that we saw in our family or in the community. Very often we award kids with food, so it's definitely something that is easier to go back to earlier on. And there are other coping mechanisms that we take on maybe later in life for sure. So it can be rooted, like anxiety and food, and the connection can be rooted like definitely in our childhood.
The sad thing that I see with a lot of people is that they don't make that connection really. They don't see that they're even using it as a coping mechanism. They may just see, gosh, I don't have any self-control around sugary sweets or around chocolate. Or they may just say, God, when am I ever going to get it together? Like, I know I'm not supposed to be eating this, but I just am. So sometimes some people, I even have to help them make that connection between the anxiety and this is why you can't say no. This is why you overeat, etc. Sometimes that's the very first step for people, is just an awareness of their behaviors. All right, so I know we wanted to
for sure.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I wanted to make sure what we do is, if you're listening to this live and you're like, that's me, I definitely use food as a coping mechanism and I'd like to stop. Let's give them some practical tips. So let's start with, in the moment, I'm stressed out about, like you said, a job interview, a presentation, a difficult conversation I need to have, etc. And I find myself and my thoughts turning to food. I recognize it and I don't want to go down that road. What are some, I think you called them regulating techniques? Is that what you called them?
Yeah.
That our viewers could implement in the moment to make better choices?
Sure. Before we go into the tips, I would like to underline what you mentioned before, like how people feel about like doing something or turning to something, but even with anxiety. And I think that's why it's so important to understand the science behind it and how we work and how our protective parts work, because that's another thing what I see very often, that that people feel so much shame and guilt because they experience anxiety. And when we understand how we work, I think that takes it out of the conversation. And that's, I think, a very, very big step. The same thing with the coping mechanisms, that there's no shame, again, using these coping mechanisms, let it be food in our case. Again, maybe there was a time when that was the only thing we were able to use. But so acknowledging it, knowing that really this is what's happening, as you said, it's a really, really big step. And when I work with people, of course, we can look into things. What can people do right in the moment, and also like something that would be a long process. And I would say that in the moment when somebody is right there to grab that food because they feel some kind of sensations in their body, and they don't want to feel that. Are you still hearing me? I thought that we lost each other again, but no.
Gotcha. I'm here.
Hopefully not. So when somebody's right there to grab that food, that can't they just stop for a moment and pick one of the regulating tools or resources? Maybe people hear about this as grounding tools as well.
Mm. Right, we are waiting on Livia to rejoin.
I moved.
I don't know what the problem is.
I don't know what's going. I moved too. I'm in my son's room right now.
Yeah.
Maybe it's gonna be better here.
I don't know. I don't know if it's me or you, but anyway, go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah. So what I said is that if somebody's there to grab that food, and if they could just take one moment before they do that and pick one of the regulating resources or grounding tools, what they would pick. And it can be so many things, again, something that we do on our own, let's say a breathing exercise, or even just the music. Like I have certain songs on my phone that I use when I feel like that I'm in this regulation and I need to bring myself up a little bit or feel better. Or if someone has Spotify on their phone, they can put together a list what would help and just listen to one song or do one breathing exercise and then rest and notice, see how you feel.
Can you give us an example of a breathing exercise for people who've never done that?
Sure, it can be as simple as breathing in for 6, then holding it in for 7 and breathing out for 8.
Okay.
And
or why does that help?
Sorry?
Why does that help?
That would help. That would send a signal to our nervous system that that things are okay, that we are safe, right here, right now, in this moment. When our exhales are longer than our inhales, then that's even an extra little tip that we can do. So if somebody just do that for a minute and then see and notice how they feel, they might not go to that food. If they do, please, again, don't shame yourself about it. So you can still do it. You can still take it, because I think what's important is take small steps, what our nervous system can handle. So you're gonna do this over time, like always before you grab that food and you go and do a grounding or a regulating tool. That what we are doing is we are showing our system that we can be dysregulated, but still not totally overwhelmed by it. Slowly, whatever our system can handle, and over time, it can help us maybe not to take that, not to turn to that coping mechanism, but actually using the grounding tools instead.
All right, if you just joined us, we are talking about you're in the moment, you're anxious, it's uncomfortable feeling, you head for the refrigerator and you say, wait a minute, I don't want to do this. And Livia is giving us some practical tips we can do in the moment to make good choices. One she mentioned was breathing techniques, and 2 she mentioned was, what was it? Music.
Listen to a song or something that gives a good feeling right in the
moment. I
moment.
had one that I really, really like, and it is to pause and say, you know what, if I don't need food right now, what is it I really need? So this is a simple skill I teach called, what do I really need? So if it's not food I need, what do I really need? I may need to disperse some energy. I need to go for a walk or put on a song and dance. Like I feel anxious, and I feel like if I could move my body, that would help. I may feel like I am angry and I need to take a piece of paper and get my anger out on a piece of paper, or my anxiety. I'm really anxious. That may help. So what is it that you really need? That's another one that my people that I work with find particularly helpful. So I wanted to share that.
That's wonderful. That's really, really good, because that ties into what we talked about earlier, acknowledging and really understanding what's going on, because we can be hungry for so many things, right? Yes. Not just food, but for connection, or for like so many things that we might be missing.
Yeah.
Right. From our life.
What else? You got another tip you can give our viewers? What else could they do?
Maybe one of the things that I could mention quickly is called Sifting. That is from Deb Dana's work. And that is about bringing up an experience, bringing up something, a memory that was, again, really comfortable, really good for us. Because if you think about it, when we are anxious, when we have anxiety, we are already sifting in an experience. Sifting, that's an acronym which means sensation, image, thoughts, and feelings. Um, and when we are in this anxious state, we have already like certain sensations in our bodies and certain image that we see, or thoughts, definitely like lots of thoughts. So what we can do is that come up with an experience that was amazing for you. It can be really anything. Let's say I don't know, a wonderful vacation with family or friends, and think it through this SIFT exercise. So what sensations you felt, what image you saw when you were there, why it was so amazing, what thoughts and feelings you had. You can even name it. It's easier to bring it up. And again, what we do with this, and the more we use this, the more we practice, it's gonna be more accessible for us. And why is this important? Because our body, our brain doesn't really know something is happening right now or it happened in the past, right? When we are anxious, we have trauma. We still can have a trauma response years later. So our body doesn't know, our brain doesn't know if it happened in the past or now. With the sifting exercise, this is what we are using. We are utilizing that. If we bring that memory up and really try to feel into that, it's gonna again send the message to our body that we are safe, and it's easier to go back to that regulated state where we want to be, which will help us not using the food, a coping mechanism.
That's good. I'll add one more. Be aware of any thoughts you have about rationalizing or distorted thoughts. Thoughts like, I'm anxious and I shouldn't eat this, but eating this is the only thing that's going to make me feel better. Eating this is the only thing that's going to make my anxiety better. If you catch yourself with that kind of faulty thinking, think, wait a minute, is that even a true statement? Clearly, that is not a true statement, right? Although eating this may make you feel better in the moment and it may decrease your anxiety in the moment, it's not the only thing that would do that. So what else would do that that is not detrimental to my health is a good way to look at it. And the distorted thinking, like bargaining with yourself. Well, I know I shouldn't be eating this, but it'll help my anxiety, and I will go to the gym tonight where I had really not planned to. I'll work off these calories, or I won't eat dinner because I'll eat this now, but then I won't eat dinner. Like we're bargaining and rationalizing. If you do that, that's really faulty thinking that a lot of times can really help. In the moment will help you, or not help you, but in the moment you will go ahead and make a poor choice because you will rationalize it in your brain that this is okay. So if you do that, beware of that. I work a lot with people on how to change those thoughts, how to recognize them, ask them if it's really true, and then you want to reframe it, like I did with the example about eating these brownies was the only thing that's going to make my anxiety better. Actually, that's not true. It will help my anxiety in the moment, but there's other things I could do that would help my anxiety that I would not be bad for my health, or that would make me feel guilty afterwards too. It's a big one.
I love it what you're saying, and it's absolutely it's I'm pretty sure that it's very helpful for anyone who's listening. And again, that's the difference, right, between our coping mechanisms and something that's been more regulating, because a coping mechanism can be helpful just right on the spot. Right now we talk about food, but long term it can be harmful for us.
For sure.
And, that's definitely a tricky things.
Yes. Real quick, that's another skill I teach is play it forward, which is I want to eat these brownies right now because of my anxiety, but let's play this forward. In the moment, these brownies will taste great and it actually will help my anxiety. But later on today, how will that affect me mentally? How will it affect me physically? And is that still worth it when I consider how this is going to affect me in the future? And a lot of times there's the guilt, the shame, the regret that comes with the eating the food. So it's not worth it when you look at it for the long term, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else you want to add? Simple tips? I wanted to give you a moment before we close to kind of tell how you work with people if anyone's interested in following up with you. But do you have any simple tips to add before we close?
I think for in the moment, like these are the things that I would recommend for someone trying them out. And there are definitely are like other somatic tools and exercises that I use with clients. But these things, if somebody tries them out, I think that if they keep doing it consistently, they would see changes for sure. And if somebody would be interested in my work or how I work with people, then the best way would be to DM me. Like the easiest way to just DM me here on Instagram, and then we can go from there.
Okay. And you work only one-on-one? Do you do any groups?
Right now, I'm mostly focusing on one-on-ones.
Okay. And is it all over Zoom or over telehealth?
Yeah, it can happen through Zoom or through phone. We can work out the details. It depends, like where my clients are from. If they are here from North America or Canada, then we have
So I want to encourage anybody who's watching to at least DM Livia and find out more about what she does with people. She is trauma informed, so I think that is really important to point out. If you have past trauma, and that could be a whole nother topic, what is trauma? People think about it as only big traumas like sexual abuse or physical abuse, something like that, but it encompasses a whole lot more. So she is trauma informed. So if you see that, you want to explore how your past trauma affects you today, and one way could be you have anxiety, then she's a great person to start with. And to learn about the nervous system, I don't teach that. Learn about the nervous system and how your past trauma has affected it. And I think you were correct. You said this earlier, that understanding why you are why you are the way you are, like maybe where your anxiety developed as a survival tool when you were a child, for example, is really helpful and takes a lot of the shame away from it.
Yes.
For sure. So what I do is I work more with people who everybody that comes to me wants to lose weight, and they struggle with the eating what they're supposed to. So most dietitians, registered dietitians, are going to be very food focused. Here's what you should eat, maybe when you should eat, how much you should eat. They'll answer questions for you about, I can't find any healthy recipes, where's a good resource? Or I travel with my job, and how do I eat healthy in restaurants? And so you see how that's very food focused.
Yeah. And that is wonderful what you do, because you also go deeper. Yes. And not just so
a lot of people can lose weight and make healthy lifestyle changes being food focused. There's definitely a place for that. But what I do is the people who've already tried that route and can't do it, or they've lost 30 pounds, they've gained back 25, and they've done that 3 times. There's something more going on. The food is serving a bigger purpose. And I help people uncover what is that purpose. A lot of times, like we said, it developed in childhood. And I help them see, how did what happened to me in my past affect how I eat today? And then I equip them. I can equip them with skills in the moment, some of which I've shared today, that can make you make healthy choices in the moment. Yeah. But because I'm a registered dietitian and a personal trainer, I don't have the background to say, we're like you're talking about, to teach about the nervous system and anxiety, depression, things like that. So I usually am really good at uncovering things, and then I have to pass them off when I'm done working with them to people such as Livia. So if anybody wants to work with me, you can check out my programs are all on my website, which actually, if you're here on Instagram, you can just go to my bio. I have a YouTube channel that has a lot of really helpful videos. And also I've got a free 5-day challenge on my website. I've also got a free download. It's called Stress Eating Toolkit. That's all on my website at sherriclarkenutrition.com. And that is all the link in my bio. The link to all of that would be in my bio. So I'm glad we didn't cut out.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Sherri, for all the work that you do, the approach that you take. I think that's wonderful. And whoever wants to lose weight and really go deeper into the whys, then definitely like I would recommend you to anyone.
Well, thank you so much.
And
I appreciate it. And likewise, I've heard great things about your work too. So
yeah, and thank you for inviting me. I think this is a really interesting and exciting and very important topic.
Yeah.
Talking about anxiety and food and
Yeah.
how they are related. So hope that the people got good information out of our conversation, even though it was like on and off. I don't know if you can put it together later on.
I will do my best, but I think really all we missed at the beginning was we kind of introduced ourselves, and then we started talking about what is anxiety. So since I think the beginning's cut off, let me repeat that. We talked about the definition of anxiety, just the feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about an event or an uncertain outcome. And then you added a little bit more on that. You want to recap that just for those who, because I don't think that we talked about at the beginning and then we got cut off, and I don't think I can
Sure. Sure. What I think what I said that if we look at the DSM-5, then it will say that anxiety is an anticipation of a future fear. And I mentioned that there are different types of anxiety disorders, which can be different just the regular anxiety that we might feel day to day. And I think it's important the difference. And what my approach is, and what I feel important is that other than the diagnosis, really anxiety is a symptom. It's a symptom that we are in active self-protection mode, and our bodies is reacting, trying to keep us safe. Like our body never works against us; it always works for us and wants to keep us safe. And understanding that, like why it's happening and how, like that's why, like we go into the nervous system, like understanding it and how to regulate it. That would help us on a long run.
I'm writing that down. The body always works for us, not against us. That's a great quote. I'll use that. Okay.
Thank you so much again.
Us, and if you want to reach out to either me or to Livia, we told you how earlier in the video, so we hope to hear from you guys. And if you have any questions, you just want us to answer questions, you can DM us questions as well. All right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.